Session 22 writing task is to write a letter to refer Miss Nina Davis to Helping Hand Rehabilitation Center for post-operative care after left hemiarthroplasty since she had a fracture on her left neck of femur fracture from a fall. Here you are the charge nurse on the medical ward where Mrs. Davis was admitted and underwent surgery and writing a referral letter to the Miss Susan Parry, a charge nurse at Helping Hand Rehabilitation Center where she will be transferred to after her discharge. Let us look into the case note first. If we look into the case note in detail, we can see there are two dates given, that is the admission date and the discharge date. Here the admission date is irrelevant and not to be mentioned in the letter, but you have to mention the discharge date in the introduction paragraph of the letter. The date of the letter will be today's calendar date unless today's date is specifically given in the case note, because it is essential to know when the service should be provided. The details of the patient given are Miss Nina Davis, date of birth 25th December 1943 and 95 Eagle Valley, Sydney, where the name, date of birth and address are important and the name and date of birth should be mentioned in the reference. In the personal details, which include occupation, race, marital status, next of kin and family history, marital status is the only relevant information which should be included in the letter. And all other information are irrelevant and can be omitted because all this information are not necessary for the charge nurse in the rehabilitation center to know to give post-operative care and support for the patient. In the social history, all the information mentioned are relevant and should be supported with some information from the discharge plan to have a clear idea about her social background and the reason why she is transferred to a rehabilitation facility instead of moving her back to her house. But these points should be presented in a different manner instead of copying the same information word by word from the case note. Even though her diet and allergies are relevant and should be mentioned in the letter, you can selectively avoid some information from her past medical history. Nurse in charge must know the condition of the patient as she has coronary artery disease and hypertension and is on medicine. Those are still being taken and are really important because rehabilitation includes total care, not only post-operative care. Importance should be given to the chief complaint and should emphasize in the letter because this is the reason why she had to undergo the surgery and thereby her transfer to the rehabilitation center as her husband is unable to look after her. In the nursing management and progress, you can see a lot of dates with the respective treatments and medications given. No need to mention each and every name of medicine, but don't forget to write that medication details are included. You have to keep in mind that all the information given are important but has to filter out the most important information from this section. And try to club these points to form a complex, compound or complex compound sentences which makes a letter more impressive. You have to mention all the diagnoses mentioned in this part with the relevant medications that the charge nurse of the rehabilitation center should know about. However, you can avoid going into much details of the medication part and can just mention the name of the relevant medicines and treatment she had undergone, which gives a clear-cut idea about the present condition of the patient. All the information provided in the discharge plan is important and should be mentioned in the letter, but should try to avoid making simple sentences. The medications listed are important as well. However, you can just mention that the details regarding the medication are attached with the letter, which is more impressive than listing out all the medications in the letter. Taking all these points, we have to prepare a letter. Now let us see how we can write a letter with the help of a sample letter written by a candidate from India. The address, salutation and the reference is perfectly written. The date written here is wrong because the writer has used here the discharge date. It should be today's calendar date unless today's date is not specifically given in the case note. Moving to the introduction paragraph, I am writing to request rehabilitative care for Miss Nina Davis who has osteoporosis and is recovering from left hemiarthroplasty. She will be transferred into your facility today. Here this introduction is somewhat good, but it could have been better if you have written in such a way that I am writing to request a rehabilitative care for Mrs. Nina Davis, a osteoporosis patient who is recovering after left hemiarthroplasty and will be discharged into your facility on the 2nd of July 2017. Here we can see that all the required information are available, which makes a great impression on the reader. Moving to the second paragraph, Mrs. Davies was admitted with a fracture on left hip due to fall and immediately underwent surgery. Post-operatively, she responded well and physiotherapy was given to promote strength and recovery. She can ambulate short distance with a walker but limitation of weight up to 30% for 6 weeks. Here the writer has successfully conglomerated all the ideas within 3 sentences in a concise manner. Coming to the last sentence of the paragraph, she complains of constipation during hospitalization for which medication was given, which seems like an odd one, and this sentence should have been placed in the middle of this paragraph. Moving to the third paragraph, Mrs. Davies was active walker and had a history of mild hyperlipidemia, hypertension, coronary artery disease, right shoulder tendonitis and PTCA. She has no allergy reported, which is all about her medical history, and the writer has framed it pretty good. Moving to the last paragraph, Mrs. Davies requires daily dressing and ensure the site are dry and intact until her staples are removed on day 14 at hospital. Here you must use is instead of are because the word site is singular and hence it will read as site is dry and intact. The second sentence says she needs assistance for her ADLs as her working husband and children are unable to take care at home, which is wrong because the patient requires assistance because of her ADL and not because of her husband is working and her children are unable to take care. Another thing is that the case note doesn't mention that her husband is working. Instead it says her elderly husband not able to care for her. Hence this clause is a very big mistake. Coming to the last sentence of the paragraph, discharged medication and its details are provided for reference, which is wrong. It should be discharged medications instead of discharged medications, and seems pretty awkward way of closing a paragraph. We can see that this paragraph is not properly organized, and apart from that, this is a very good letter. You can add more information in this letter, like the patient can walk with a walker, but because of the lack of space at home, she cannot use it, and she was conservatively managed during hospital stay. Also, you must add the medication details of the patient, which are very important. All this information are relevant and should be added in the letter to make it an impressive one. Coming to the wind-up sentence, you have to mention the name of the patient along with the sentence. Then it becomes, please contact me if you have any queries regarding Mrs. Davies. The sign of yours sincerely, which is wrong because the writer used your instead of yours. It should be yours sincerely. And it should be charged nurse instead of charged nurse. Thank you.
New method for OET learning. How are you preparing? Online or offline? For speaking and writing, you can get tutor reviews. How will you be able to manage your reading and listening? How can you manage your self-practice easier than ever before? Learn OET in Merlin's way. Most successful OET learning method from world's best online trainer. Chat now, mentormerlinexam.com.